be a lawyer, you can be, you can be a hero. That sort of scenario. And just taking that by itself, that can tend to relegate us to a certain set of heroes. Maybe we're Cyborg, maybe you're Oracle, maybe you're Misty Knight, maybe you're Professor X. But what I love about cosplay is that when you take that next step beyond just sort of seeing yourself in the characters, cosplay says that you can be those characters that resonate with you, or you can be any character that resonates with you. So you can decide to be Captain America that day. You can decide to be Maggot, or I don't know, or Cyclops. Who wouldn't want to be Cyclops? But you can decide to be Cyclops that day. Because cosplay gives you the flexibility. And even better than that, people will meet you where you are because of the way that you're interacting, at least in the best times of that scenario, which I think is super great and super important. Being able to sort of redirect the stereotypes of a character and create an identity, either in yourself or in that character, I think is sort of a key part of what we're looking for as people with disabilities in general. We'd love to sort of dress as our own heroes, go out into the world, and not have people say, how do you manage the world with that disability? And be like, oh, I get it. You're a blind hero in my workplace. Badass. I'm going to do that next week, or show me how to do what you did.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. I have achondroplastic dwarfism, which is the most common form of dwarfism. And it was funny, I asked my very loud and incredibly adorable, incredibly precocious 11-year-old a few minutes before the panel started, what do you think when you see little people on TV dressed as elves? And he kind of gave me a look, and he was like, I don't really like it, because why do we just have to be elves? And
yeah,
growing
that's
up,
what I said.
That's why I'm talking about you. And I grew up in a multi-generational family of little people. Like my mom, my mom dated an Ewok for a period of time. I could have had an Ewok as a stepdad. He was not that great. But growing up in the little person community, we had friends that was what they did. Like that was their income every year was they elfed. And it was because in our community that was the option. And I remember when Willow came out and it being so incredibly powerful because it showed my people with agency. It showed my people with a culture. It showed families that looked like mine. And just, finding in nerd culture, average height people that really loved that film was really meaningful to me. It's like, oh wait, you get it too? That's ours. We'll let you borrow it. You can borrow Willow, but that's okay. That's our thing. But I think the thing that's so important about cosplay, it allows you to be what you might not necessarily see. And so I remember 2 years ago when we were here at New York City Comic Con, and we came in the front doors in the Crystal Palace area, and there were 4 wheelchair users that were members of the 501st. And it was really cool. I had never seen guys in chairs with Stormtrooper helmets on before. And at the time, both my husband and I worked in the government, so of course I wanted to make some government cracks. So I was like, hey, what kind of workers' comp do they give you on the Death Star? And they're like, man, the paperwork's a real bitch. And I was like, yeah, do you get, what is life like? Do they give you, job retraining services now? Do you get, a clerical role now? What's your, and for my kids who are used to seeing people use wheelchairs all the time, it didn't even miss a beat for them.
Yeah,
It was
that's us.
Yes. Oh my gosh, you are so
I
amazing.
try to use all the chances for screen time. I need to be relevant.
The last thing I would say about cosplay that I think is really interesting is when you can really flip it on its head. A few years ago at Halloween, somebody rang our doorbell, and we had a House Lannister flag outside of our house on Capitol Hill. And I opened my door, and there's this dude who's, I'm not kidding you, 6'2", dressed as Tyrion Lannister. And I totally don't think he expected a little person to open the door. So the door opens, and he stands there, and he's just his mouth is agape. And he's dressed as Tyrion, he has the Lannister sigil on, he's got a shield, he's got a scar on his face, and an axe. And I was you're gonna say trick or treat, right? Because you're not getting candy otherwise. And I was like, or is now where we say like we want the 1.5 man as opposed to we want the half man? You know, and it was really interesting to me because I remember sitting down afterwards and being like, how do I feel about that? Like there was just an average height dude on my porch dressed as Tyrion Lannister, and I was like, I think that's actually pretty cool because it means that that character resonated so much that, you know, he's become mainstream. And I have my own issues with white dwarf men getting way too much media attention compared to dwarf women and LPs of color. But I just think that that's the power of cosplay, the fact that somebody loves some average height dude on Capitol Hill, who probably is a Hill staff or somewhere, loves Tyrion Lannister enough that he dressed up as him for Halloween. And that's awesome. And that's the power of flipping perception.
Perception.
So I'm gonna, I don't know if I can top your story, but I do have one other story that I tend to tell at this panel, and it's one that's really true to my heart. So, wow, I'm trying to believe that's 5 years ago now, or well, almost 6 years. So, about 6 years ago, I was going through a really, really hard time. Maybe it was closer to 5.5. I had just gone through a breakup. But I had made a friend online, and she was all the way out in South Texas, so the opposite side of the U.S. We both did cosplays off of this, based off of this, at the time, this really, really cool comic book called Lock and Key, which is now a TV show on Netflix. And she did one of a costume of depression. And I did one of the characters, which after we met in person for a cosplay meetup, I later did anxiety. When about 2 weeks after we met, she moved here to New York to be with me, and it's been one of the best and most amazing things ever, because in addition to getting a girlfriend, I got a best friend, and someone who's been there to support me, and having autism, that's something that has been, making friends has always been, and maintaining friends has always been incredibly difficult, and realizing that's 5 years now. It's usually she's here at the panel moderating, but this year she's not here moderating because she actually is over at the Lincoln Center doing seamstress work. But it's really when I talk about the power of community and, community building, that's what I mean is, living the era of the internet, distance is no longer a boundary, and making friends and creating a community. Sorry, I derailed there. Do you want to talk a bit more about Magic Witcher?
Sure. Yeah.
What's the coolest build you've done?
Yeah.
So I've done two. The chair one is the one that's finished. I'm in the process of another one now. That is like this makeup counter vanity thing. So that was something I had very little knowledge of going into it. I had to learn quite a bit about makeup and beauty and whatever else. So that was a fun research project. It's in terms of techniques, I'm learning new stuff all the time. The foundation of both of these costumes have pretty much been PVC because it's easy and expensive, and you can build it around something pretty easily. But varying from there, when we did the chair the first year, it was this material called coroplast, which we thought was going to be this magic material at the time. And then after cutting it out and getting ready to assemble it, we realized nothing really sticks to it, and that was a problem. But we kind of worked our way around it. We sewed this pretty awesome like thing of the car together, and so it looked great in the end. We were able to salvage it, but you know, do your research on that, I guess, is the advice we learned from that. The costume we're working on now, we laser cut a lot out of MDF and masonite. That's been a cool one as well. It's like this, you know, desk vanity thing in the front and this nice big mirror in the back with like all these light bulbs. Yeah, and she's going to be sitting in the center, so she's like, you know, in the mirror. We're really excited to finish up that one. We're pretty much built, painted everything. We're just in the final stages now. Yeah, it's a really fun thing to do with your friends. You know, you get to work on this big costume together with all sorts of other people.
You know, that's awesome. Like, one of the things, we get a chance to work with folks with like multiple different types of disabilities, some physical, some invisible, some invisible.